Indian rupee has plummeted to an unprecedented low.
Rupee has breached a key psychological threshold.
As the rupee free fall continues for 16 straight months.
Every few months, we hear this news. At first, it sounds like a breaking news, but after a while, it starts getting familiar. And that's exactly why this time it's very interesting. Because despite the rupee weakening, the RBI did not intervene aggressively. Our massive forex reserves were not used to defend the rupee. The government issued no urgent statement, and the economists who used to panic during market volatility surprisingly remained calm. But why? Let's look at this quote by Mr. Sajid Chinoy, the chief Indian economist of JP Morgan. He actually said that this move is strategic. Here is what he quotes: "A weaker rupee does not mean a weaker economy. It's strategic." This is a big statement from major global institution. It gives us clue that something deeper is happening. Meanwhile, let's look at India's behavior. We are buying record levels of gold. We are quietly pushing trade in bilateral currencies, and BRICS nations, including India, are collectively reducing dependency on the US dollars. So that arises a real question. What is actually going on? Why is India allowing the rupee to weaken? And what you as investors need to do. We will all uncover this in today's video. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel for more knowledgeable videos, and stay tuned with Financial Currents. Namaste friends, I am Rohini and you're watching the knowledge series of fincash.com. To understand the journey of rupee, we need to go back 75 years, 1947. At the time of independence, $1 was 4.7 rupees. India had very limited international trade, strict capital controls, a largely closed economy. The rupee wasn't strong because India was competitive. It was strong because India wasn't participating much at the global market. This matters because once an economy opens up, the currencies must adjust. From 1965 to 1980, India fought multiple wars during this period. At the same time, global oil prices surged. India depended heavily on oil imports. That meant higher demand for foreign currency. During this period, the rupee weakened from around 8 rupees per dollar to nearly 12 rupees per dollar. This was the cost of geopolitical and energy dependency. The year 1991. This was one of the darkest periods in India's modern economic history. India faced a balance of payment crisis. Foreign exchange reserves had fallen so sharply that India could barely finance a few weeks of imports. To avoid default, India had to pledge gold abroad. During this period, the rupee fell sharply, moving from around 17 rupees per dollar to nearly 26 rupees per dollar. This is officially the first major fall in modern Indian history. The year of liberalization and civilization. Post 1991, reforms changed in India fundamentally. India opened its economy. Imports rose, exports expanded, capital inflows increased. As India integrated with the world, the rupee settled around 45 rupees per dollar. This was a structural realignment for a growing economy. Coming to 2013, the US Federal Reserve announced that it would reduce global liquidity. This triggered panic across emerging markets. Foreign investors pulled money out aggressively. India was amongst the hardest hit. The rupee moved sharply from around 55 rupees per US dollar to nearly 68 per US dollar. This episode is considered India's second major currency shock. Once again, the cause was global, not uniquely Indian. The 2020 COVID shock, where the world shut down. There was fear, capital fight, and uncertainty. The rupee weakened to 76 per US dollar. Coming to 2022, to fight inflation, the US Federal Reserve raised interest rates aggressively. This strengthened the US dollar globally. Almost every major currency weakened. Japanese yen, euro, British pound, Chinese yuan. The rupee moved to 83 per dollar. This was part of global dollar cycle, not an Indian-specific collapse. Coming to the recent 2025, where the rupee is weakening gradually and there is no emergency RBI intervention. no depletion of reserves, no policy panic. This is what the economics called as calibrated depreciation. So let us first be very clear. So this is not the first major fall in the rupee. India's two crises were 1991, 2013, 2020. Compared to those, today's movement is orderly and managed. Now this is very critical to understand, that not every rupee fall is healthy or acceptable. A weakening currency becomes dangerous when inflation spirals out of control, forex reserves collapse, external debt becomes unsustainable, and capital exits become disorderly. In such situations, depreciation of rupee becomes distress and not strategy. But what we are discussing in this video today applies when inflation remains broadly anchored, forex reserves are strong, growth remains intact, volatility is managed, not ignored. So this video is not defending on every rupee fall. In fact, it's explaining that why current phase looks more controlled and not chaotic. Now let us understand that why currency weaken in growing economy. Before we move ahead, it's important to understand that what is putting so much pressure on rupee right now. Globally, rising US bond yield and expectation of a possible rate hike by the Bank of Japan have made investors more cautious. As a result, some global investors are unwinding riskier positions, especially trades funded through the Japanese yen. This has triggered a risk-off mood across global market, and emerging economics, including India, are feeling that pressure. Foreign portfolio flows have turned more cautious, which adds short-term stress to the rupee. Importantly, RBI's response so far have been restrained, suggesting policymakers to see this as a global flow-driven pressure and not as a domestic crisis. Here is an uncomfortable truth. Every fast-growing economy experiences currency pressure. Japan, South Korea, China, Brazil, Malaysia, all of them saw prolonged periods of currency weakness during their growth years. But why does this happen? We will look at certain points. First, developing countries import more than they export. Oil, technology, machinery. These are essential for building a modern economy. Higher imports naturally put pressure on the currency. The second point is fast-growing economies always see currency adjustment. When your GDP grows faster than Western countries, your domestic demand rises, your consumption rises, your global trade rises. The currency adjusts to reflect its expansion. The third point is trade expansion leads to higher dollar demand. More global business means more dollar settlement. Higher dollar demand is equal to weaker domestic currency. This is not crisis, this is a math. The fourth point is depreciation actually fuels early development. A slightly weaker currency makes export competitive, attracts foreign investments, and helps local manufacture beat cheap imports. And this is how exactly China became the factory of the world. Japan dominated electronics. Korea built Samsung, Hyundai, LG, all during times when their currencies were weak. So yes, currency depreciation is not the only sign of economic failure. It can be often a sign of economic transition. Yen, the Japanese currencies, is actually been depreciated over several years. But here is what the surprising part. In the last decade, the yen has fallen over 40% against the US dollar. But Japan kept it intentionally weak. Why? Because a cheaper yen means Japanese goods becomes more affordable globally. Now you may have recently heard discussions like BRICS may use yen for certain trade corridors. Is India moving away from the dollar? Or is yen replacing the US dollar? So let us clear this crisp and clean. Some BRICS nations are considering using the yen only as a settlement currency because it is stable, predictable, and globally acceptable. But India is not replacing the US dollar with yen. What India is doing is far more strategic. India is increasing rupee-based trade with UAE, Russia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. It is using dirham, ruble and yuan for specific bilateral transactions. It is reducing long-term dependency on the US dollars. It is supporting the BRICS plan for non-dollar settlement system. So while yen plays a very limited but useful role in international settlement, and India's priority looks very clear. That is to expand rupee trade and strengthen India's own currency footprint globally. Now let's bring this discussion home. Because macroeconomics only matters if it affects your money. So who benefits when the rupee weakens? So let us make this very clear that when rupee weakens, there are set of people who benefit. There are set of people who feels the pinch, and there are people who remain largely neutral. Let us look at them one by one. First, who benefits when the rupee weakens? Export-oriented companies are usually the biggest beneficiaries. Think of sectors like IT service, pharmaceuticals, engineering goods, textiles, and auto components. These companies earn a large part of their revenue in dollar, euros, and other foreign currencies, while most of their expense are in rupees. So when the rupee weakens, the same dollar income converts into more rupees. That improves revenue, supports margin, and often makes earning more predictable. That is why export-heavy sectors tend to do better during periods when rupee weakens. NRIs and people receiving remittance also benefit. If you earn abroad and spend in India, every dollar or dirham you send home converts into more rupee. That means higher purchasing power, better value for remittance, and often better returns for investment made in India. Gold investors usually see indirect benefits as well. When the rupee weakens and global uncertainty rises, gold price in rupee often move up. Not because gold is suddenly exciting, because it helps protect purchasing power during the market volatility. Investors exposed to global asset also benefit. If you invest in US stock or international funds, a weaker rupee can add to return when those investments are valued back in rupees. But this benefit comes with risk, and it can reverse when the rupee strengthens. Now let us look at second group, who feels pressure when the value of rupee falls. Import-heavy business feels the pressure almost immediately. Companies that depend on imported fuel, electronics, machineries, or raw materials see their cost rise when the rupee weakens. If they raise prices, consumers feel the impact. If they absorb the cost, profit margin gets squeezed. Second, are the one individuals spending in foreign currencies. They also feel the pinch. Foreign travel becomes more expensive. Overseas education cost rises. Even international subscriptions start costing more in rupee terms. So household with dollar-linked expenses feels this change directly. The third is businesses that rely heavily on imported inputs. They face double challenge. Higher inputs cost can squeeze margins and over time contribute to inflation if those costs are passed on to the customers. Now the third group, who remains almost neutral. Most long-term domestic investors often remain neutral when the value of rupee falls. If your income is in rupee, your expenses is in rupee too. And your investments are long-term and diversified. So short-term currency movements do not materially change or hamper your financial outcomes. Over time, currency volatility tends to smooth out. This is why investors who do long-term systematic investment plan tend to remain less affected. So the next time when someone says, rupee crash ho gaya, sab bech do, consider it as course correction, a structural move. Avoid panic reaction. Stay diversified. Use gold as a hedge, not speculation. Stick to your long-term systematic investment plan. Prefer rupee stability if market volatility bothers you. If this video has helped you, please do like, share, and comment below. Until next time, stay informed, stay invested, because currency moves, but smart money wins. It is your money, invest it smartly.